So my dude's Valk here, and today I want to talk about what buffs I would like to see for Lost Warrior, essentially. Like, what all would I like to see, because I know everyone wants to see, or every Lost Warrior main wants to see him buffed. There's a bunch of stuff I would like to see, but I want to go ahead and talk about it today. Number one is just faster startup on all of his moves. This being one of his best moves at 22 frames is pretty rough. It's hard to get in on a lot of people, especially whenever they can just mash through it. If they mash through it, they end up catching you before you even hit them, and it's really sad. Same with this 5MS. It works very similarly to the point where they can just mash through it because it's a 15 frame startup. So I don't know, like, some way, but I would like to actually be able to pressure people rather than people just swinging randomly and end up clipping me out of what's supposed to be my mid-screen engage moves. They can just clip me out of it, and it gives it so I have no real range options outside of 6MS and Success. The only two range options I have. But I would like faster startup on basically all of his moves, even his normals. His normal, or especially his 5A, is pretty rough. His 5A's range is actually abysmal. From this point, it no longer hits, while any other 10 frame or even lower in the game just heavily outranges it, to the point where his only reliable, like, light really is his 2A at 11 frames. This tends to be his only reliable light. You also have this move at 15 frames. So his light, his 5A, and his 5AA, which has very similar range, is very, very bad. They're both very bad moves. I'd like to see either their range extended, which you then at that point you could keep the 10 frame, keep it similar to other characters that have 10 frames, like Launcher or Crusader, and then you have the other character with 12 frame lights, Ranger, who has full screen lights, but we're not going to get those. But make the range somewhat similar to those characters so we can actually use it to, you know, interrupt people so they can't pressure us so much. So if they're doing untrue strings, like if they're doing, like, I don't know, this into this constantly, and we know they're like -3 on block, we can afford to try to challenge with a 5A. But right now 5A genuinely whiffs too much that it's not really safe to challenge. Instead we have to challenge with the 11 frame 2A. So 5A being buffed up would be very nice, and as I mentioned before, just ways to not get knocked out of the startup of these two moves specifically. I'm fine with 4MS the way it is currently. That's going to catch a lot of people off guard. Maybe make the tracking better so people can't just run through it, like sprint through 4MS. Make the tracking of 4MS better. Maybe have it, well, I guess they would have to speed up the fall speed of it. That'd really be the only way to make the tracking better, is to increase the fall speed. But as it stands, I think the move is pretty good. It's mostly used as an escape tool or an engage, just so you can get on somebody. But it is -4 on block, and I think that's I think that's fair. I think it's a pretty strong move, because don't get me wrong, I don't want Lost Warrior. I want Lost Warrior to be up to par. I don't want him to be good. I want him to have more defensive options. I think his offense is actually pretty damn good as it is. But once again, I'm going to go through it. I think all of his S moves are actually fine except for 4S. For 4S, just please, for the love of God, increase the startup of it, or decrease the startup frames of it. That's what I mean to say. Make it faster. For the love of God, make this move faster. This move is really, it's scary at low levels, but whenever you get the high levels, this move is really, really, really bad. It's just basically a free, hey, here I am hopping on your head, doing anti-air now. It's a very bad move. You can only pull out seldomly whenever they are not looking for it. That's whenever you can do it, but it is a very, very bad move. I think his 2S is perfectly fine. I think his 2B is fine. I think his 5B is actually fine as well. The range on it's pretty decent. Frame data is pretty slow, but it's got decent range. If they want to increase it to maybe like an 11 frame move, then I'd be fine with that, because it has very similar reach to his 2A. Almost the exact same reach, I would say. This is fine, I think, at 15 frames. I think that's a perfectly fine move. It's one of his better ones because it leads to a lot of his MS skills, and that in turn leads to pressure, so you can do all sorts of shenanigans off of it, you know? So I think his S moves overall are pretty fine except for 4MS. I think this is a really good move, actually. It's one of the better tools we have. I do wish it was faster on startup. That way, a lot of times I can barely get it out if I try to delay. You can see how long the startup is on it. It's a really, really long startup, so I do wish it was a little bit faster on startup, but for most of the part, I believe a lot of those moves are fine. We talked about 4MS. I'm fine with it. 2MS needs to be reworked overall. Is a 3 frame startup, 48 frame recovery, and it is beaten out by lows with a very short active window. Whenever you see that X, that is the active window. That active window is incredibly short. It is not worth the risk. It is a 48 frame on whiff. That is a please kill me button if it actually lands. I think JMS, one of our better moves at 15 frames, is actually fine the way it is. It not only is at 15 frames, but if you do it right, it is actually safe on block. That's right. You can make it safe. You can also safe jump with it if you do it at the right height. If you hit them with that, as long as you hit them with the JMS, it does turn into not really a safe jump because you're not jumping at that point, but you're falling down, and you do have, if they, basically you throw a light, the light connects, then you can continue with the block string, or if you throw a light and you notice the light doesn't connect, and you block because that means you're DPing. So it's a pretty good option against both options. I think JMS is perfectly fine. 6MS is a very good move, very strong move, but for the love of God, don't make it 30 frame startup. 30 frame startup is really, really rough, especially whenever almost all of our moves, it's really hard to actually chain them together in a cohesive manner because 30 frames means that they can just jab out of it a lot of times, especially characters with like 7 to 5 frame jabs. A good example is Berserker. Berserker can just do this out of our strings and actually get us with it. So you have to be very predictive towards Berserker. You have to predict the hell out of him, that way you can stuff whatever he's doing. But just increase this on startup by a couple frames and I think it'd be much better. And that's basically it. That's all I'd like to see, just startup frames on a lot of stuff. But one more thing, almost forgot. While I have this here, let me see. Action record settings. Let's find a setting to where he's actually doing things. Okay, cool. So the other thing I would like is right now guard cancel as it stands. You can see that's guard cancel. The range on it is decent, but it's a very slow startup to where it's actually beaten out by a lot of stuff. People can grab it on reactions, etc. So give us more defensive options. I don't think guard cancel necessarily needs to be buffed, but I think it costing 100 mana, this is more so a universal thing, not just Lost Warrior, but I think it costing 100 mana, not being able to throw you into exhaustive state, and it just not being a very good option in general, because some characters, Ranger and Berserker, can sit outside the range that you are able to actually guard cancel and just put you in checkmate scenarios to where you just die. You just straight up die and there's nothing you can do about it. You just kind of get bullied and you die because you're Lost Warrior and you don't have a good DP. So I think more defensive options are an absolute must if they don't want to give Lost Warrior a DP. Instead, they want to give him a really bad parry. Perfectly fine. Just give the characters, all in all, more defensive options, because defense in this game is very, 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 very difficult, and there's certain scenarios that specifically Ranger and Berserker can put you in that's just flat out checkmate, and they win because you blocked a move. Should have taken the hit, bro. Don't know what to tell you. That's essentially it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully some of you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully if you guys have any ideas, let me know in the comment section below. But these are buffs I would like Lost Warrior to see. I think outside of that, he's genuinely, his offense is pretty okay. I would like faster JA, actually thinking about it, to more so open people up, because we don't really have a good plan to open people up. Either that or give us more guard break damage, one of the two, like more damage that we can do to people's guard meters, because it's pretty abysmal. But yeah, that's basically it. Other than that, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.